Hello, good people. I'm so excited to bring you this interview with Julian Williams, the captain of the U.S. National Kendo Team. And don't worry, we'll explain what Kendo is for those of you that may not know. But I'm so excited to bring you this interview, especially as someone who also practices Japanese martial arts such as Naginata. I'm really interested to hear about Julian's story and what he has to say about learning Kendo and where it got started and everything like that. As always, if you're enjoying the interviews, go ahead and comment, like, subscribe, and we'll keep bringing them to you. So without further ado, Julian, thank you for making time today. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me.
Yeah,
I really
I'm
appreciate it.
so looking forward to this. So for the people that may not know, what is Kendo and what is the origin of it? Can you give us a little breakdown of that?
So Kendo basically it translates in Japanese to the way of the sword. Um, Ken meaning sword and Do meaning like the way of. Um, Basically, what happened with Kendo, it started a long time ago when there was samurais, and samurais were practicing sword fighting and things like that. And then it was outlawed to have swords
Mm.
for civilians. So basically, they started using wooden swords, and then that art was called kenjutsu, and that was just the art of practicing with the wooden swords. And then over time they refined it and polished it up a little bit, and then it became kendo. And then um, it's kendo is actually one of the martial arts in Japan where you can't be a police officer unless you know kendo or judo.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that.
Because yeah, so um, all police officers are required to do one or the other, and um, basically that comes from just ancient times, way back then. The police force in Japan are the ones that have the swords. So that tradition kind of carried down, and here we are today. Kendo is known around the world. It's widespread. I think there's about 62 countries that are actually competing at the World Championships now. So I mean, it's made its way all the way around.
And a fun fact
But
that
yeah.
I learned, so I used to work at the Japanese consulate here in Chicago, and my colleague,
Hmm.
Austin, shout out to Austin, practices Kendo. And he taught me that apparently this lightsaber sound that we have now in Star Wars was actually created with Kendo. They were hitting two Kendo swords together, the wooden ones, to make that sort of like
Really?
clacking sound. Yeah. So back in the day, that's how they learned. And I think to this day, actors are still trained using Kendo for movies like Star Wars or sort of any sort of sword fighting action that they have to do. So love the history of it and sort of where it's come full circle now. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into Kendo? When did it get started? You're now the captain of the team. All of that.
Big, a very long story.
All right.
Not too complicated though. Just to kind of give you a little bit of knowledge. I'm half Japanese and I'm half American, and growing up, and I grew up in a little city called Fresno, California, um, right in the middle of California. We're between San Francisco and like Los Angeles, and it's about 3 hours away both ways. And there's not a really big Japanese population in Fresno. At least for my mom, she was an immigrant. Like she came to America from Japan. There are a lot of Nisei, Sansei, Yonsei people, which are second generation, third generation, fourth generation people around in Fresno, California, because they had internment camps and things like that. So there was a bit of a Japanese culture there, but it wasn't very, um, like I guess, current. It was kind of an older Japanese culture that was in Fresno, and it wasn't a very big Japanese speaking place either. So um, for my mom to kind of give us something to kind of feel Japanese, I guess, in a town like Fresno. She threw us in kendo. We had a mutual friend that had joined, so we all joined together. Um, when I say we all, I have two siblings. I have an older brother and a younger brother, and we've all been doing kendo since I was about 10 years old. So I'm 28 now, so about 18 years ago. From there, my brothers and I, we practiced at a little dojo out there with literally. So we practiced on wooden floors, and over there, I'm telling you, we practiced on tennis courts. We practiced on carpet floors in little churches that gave us time to actually practice there.
Right.
And then from there, went to a lot of local tournaments in San Jose, the surrounding cities, and got scouted eventually when I was, I think, 18 by the current or the old Team USA captain, and asked us to come out to like a training camp. So I went, did that, and came back with a little more knowledge of what Team USA was. And then I tried out. Um, I tried out when I was 20. On my 21st birthday, I made the team.
What?
Um,
He's present.
yeah, I was actually on the 21st birthday was the day I made the national Kendo team.
Wow.
And so I didn't really have one of those drinking crazy birthday parties. I had a pretty hard practice. um, but it was cool. So I've been doing that. So it's been 7 years now since I've been on the team. So um, being on the team from 21 to 27, it all seems like a blur just
Mm,
because we spend almost every day training.
yeah.
Um, I train right now Monday through Fridays, and it's it all kind of blurs together. And the World Championships, it's every 3 years.
Okay.
So my first one was in 2015 in Tokyo, Japan. After that, we went to Korea in 2018, and then the next one is going to be 2000. Well, it's supposed to be this year in 2021, but it's going
Yeah.
to be next year in 2022
Got it.
in Paris, France.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's been a good, good ride. I mean, it's been pretty good since we made it through college and everything. It was just pretty much the same thing, like just training every day.
Yeah.
I used to drive from Fresno to LA every weekend. Uh,
What?
it's been
Wow.
tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was.
Yeah. It's a lot.
I'm just thinking. I'm playing it in my head right now. Like, man, it has been a
Yeah,
while.
yeah. When you think back on it, yeah, you really start to realize
Yeah.
how much you've dedicated to it and how much you've
Mhm.
dedicated to your practice and things like that. And I think that's really, really admirable. And yeah, I know about your brother. So actually, for everyone that doesn't know, that I'll put a link below. But there's a couple of interviews of you all because you all have all been involved in kendo, and you were all like really high ranking. So that actually kind of leads into my next question, which is how has it been practicing and even having matches against your siblings, right? I mean, I think there have been times when maybe one's been up at the top and then you've been here and you're like, no, I'm gonna beat you, right? So how has that been as an experience as a family with kendo?
Growing up with siblings that practice kendo with me, it was awesome. It was always nice to have something extra that always brought us together. Because I have friends with siblings, and there isn't really anything besides the family aspect of it that actually connected them. So it's cool to have something external like kendo that brings us together. Since we were kids, we were always in different age divisions and
Hmm.
age groups.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're familiar with like the ranking system, right? So it was separated. Um, then once we became teenagers and we got our dan, which is equivalent to a black belt, um, we started competing in the same divisions,
Okay.
and so that's when it became fun. That's when we started like competing against each other. We were
Right.
both shodan. We were all three, like I think, shodan around the same time, and maybe my brother was nidan. And yeah, we used to compete, and my little brother and I, we really go at it.
Nice. Yeah.
I think we're pretty neck and neck.
Yeah.
He was always the most talented one growing up. Always won first place. Um, yeah, he was the talented one. So it was definitely it's definitely tough
Yeah.
because I was being the older brother and losing your little brother. And there's always that little
Yep.
kicking your butt. We're like, I'm not going to lose to you. I'm not going to
Right.
lose to you.
Right. Right.
So now my little brother actually he's also on Team USA. He's on the
Okay.
same team as me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he actually is moving out to LA from San Jose here pretty shortly, so he can actually come practice with us. So
Nice.
that's going to be amazing, just practicing with my brother
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Do this. My older brother, he didn't really take that much of an interest to do the Team USA aspect of it, but he
Yep.
does also teach at a dojo
Okay.
back home in Fresno. So So we're all still pretty involved with it.
Yeah, still involved with it and everything like that. But
Mhm.
that's great that your brother will be able to join you and join the practices with the teams, and that'll be really nice. Have you practiced any other martial arts outside of kendo? Iaido, maybe I've heard that some kendo players learn Iaido, which is also a sword martial art, to sort of
Mhm.
learn different movements and things like that, or maybe Aikido or anything like that. Have you practiced anything and has it helped you or not?
I can't. I've done like Muay Thai for like a couple months back
Okay.
home in Fresno, but Kendo is always the main thing.
Okay.
It's almost something that I've done for so long that it's just kind of become a part of me, how I walk and everything like that. It's just kind of in my body,
Yeah.
and I haven't really. I've tried to do other things like boxing, and it's pretty difficult to adjust like my footwork to doing something else, or
Yeah.
I'm so in tune with what kendo is and
Yeah.
how my body is supposed to be moving
Yeah.
with that. It's hard to transition out of it almost,
Right.
in a way when I'm talking about. I did try boxing, and yeah, it's pretty difficult for me.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. In Naginata, we have like Ayumiyashi and things like that. So I think it's
Hmm.
sort of similar. For people that don't know, Naginata is a little bit more, I would say, I don't know how to describe it, like horizontal, and Kendo is very like front facing.
Hmm.
Actually, one of my favorite like things to do is watch Kendo versus Naginata matches because it's always interesting to see how they're able to make different points, even if
Hmm.
they have different swords. But yeah, the footwork. If you all ever watch Kendo videos, you'll see that there's a specific way that you move forward and backwards in a match. So yeah, that's interesting that it makes it difficult for you to do anything else.
Right.
um, so when Americans think of martial arts, they think of karate, they think of judo, maybe they think of taekwondo, maybe even Muay Thai, right? But
Hmm.
they maybe don't think about kendo. And it's still very popular; it's still well known. So I wonder how you think it's maintained as it is right now, and then why do you think it's not as maybe well known in the U.S. as other martial arts? So sort of a two-part
Uh,
question
yeah, I mean, to answer the first part of the question, I think it's the culture of it.
here.
It's something that's been around. The cool thing about kendo, and compared to a lot of different martial arts, like maybe karate or judo or taekwondo, um, it's one of those things where as you get older, you get stronger.
Mm,
It's
mm,
not. It's by the time you're 60, you'll be stronger than you were when you're 30, just because
mm,
you understand it, and it really has that kind of Star Wars effect where you
yeah,
become the older you get, you
yeah,
become like this
more of
powerful
a
Jedi.
Jedi. Yeah.
It's right. So the ranking system, the way it is, it goes from Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, Yondan, da, Godan, Rokudan, Hachidan, and then once you're at Hachidan, each one of those you have to wait the number of years of the rank to
Mhm.
actually test for the next one. So by the time you're a Hachidan, you were probably about 50
Yep.
above, and that's when you're like the strongest. Those guys are impossible to beat, and because I think the lifespan of how long you can do it for the rest of your life. It's kind of easy to pass it down and teach your
Mm,
kids. The parents can teach their kids, and then they can teach their kids. So it kind of keeps it going. So it's kind of, I think it's been kind of at a standstill or pretty stagnant. It's slowly growing in
mm,
America, but definitely in other countries, it's something that's also it's becoming more widespread.
right.
Um, the reason I don't think it's been popularized is just because I think the Olympics, right? I
Yeah.
think it's the Olympics, because it's not an Olympic sport.
Mm,
It's not something that's getting funded. It's not something that's getting put on TV.
right.
Um, and it's just the martial art. And don't get me wrong, I would love for kendo to be in the Olympics and become more popularized. I would
Right.
love for it to be a little bit more mainstream and
Yeah.
something that more people could be exposed to and understand. Um, but I don't really see that getting there just because of the talks of it being in the Olympics, and then whenever I go to Japan to train and I talk to people in Japan about it, they don't want it to go to the Olympics just because it's a martial art, and they don't want to take the budo aspect, like
Mm,
that aspect out of it and turn it into just an Olympic sport.
yeah.
So I do understand that because it is something where um like Degi is like the mannerisms and the manners of kendo, and like how things are done. It's very proper, and there's a certain way to do things.
Mhm.
And I think if it does become an Olympic sport, the fear is that that part of it will kind of disappear.
Mm, that's really interesting. I didn't think about that because I would almost think that they would want more people to know about the reiki, right? Like about the
Hmm.
manners and how you have to bow to each other and how you have to hold your swords a certain way when you enter the square and everything like that. So that's interesting that you
Hmm.
bring that up. I wonder if we can help break that down and make it a little bit more
Right.
accessible to people. Because I know like my cousins, Noah, he loves kendo. There's a Japanese
Hmm.
culture center. They have a kendo team. There's a kendo team at all the universities, all those different things. So it's definitely still around. But yeah, it's not, not like pinto konai, right? Like it doesn't automatically come to you
Yeah.
when you think about martial arts. And so I'm wondering if there's a way in which we can make it a little bit more, just because it's also a very like beautiful art, martial art when you think
Hmm.
about it. So it would be great to see it a little bit more mainstream and a little bit more people knowing about it sort of right off the bat. Do you sort of switching gears to the team aspect of things? Do you feel any pressure as the captain of Team USA? What is your leadership style, and especially now that your brother is going to be down there with you and things like that, how do you feel and how do you lead your team?
Um, yes. The first answer, yes. I feel a lot of pressure, as the captain, just because I have really big shoes to feel to
Yeah.
fill. The last captain was, he was my senpai, and he
Yeah.
was, obviously a lot stronger than I was. And his captain, which was I was on that same team. The captain before him was incredibly, incredibly talented, really strong. Has been, I think, the last when I made Team USA, and the captain that was on at that time, it was his seventh or eighth worlds, and that's like
Mm,
15 years of doing kendo, or 20 years of doing Team USA.
yeah.
And those really big shoes to fill, my senpai, and then now me to fill those shoes. I do feel a lot of pressure. Um, right now, currently, I feel more pressure, just because we have 3 years before. So we start training 2 years before the world,
Right.
and I know in the grand scheme of things, 2 years looks like a very it feels like a long time, but it goes by very fast.
Right.
And um, being the captain of a team that's spread out, so I'm one member that's living in LA. There's another one in LA. There's one in Texas. There's
Mm.
one in Nebraska, and then there's another guy in um, I think it's Maryland,
Wow.
and then
Wow.
we've
Yeah.
got a guy in Vegas, and
Yeah.
then another guy in San Diego. So it's pretty difficult to lead a team like that, especially during this pandemic. It's been, to make sure everybody's still keeping up with trainings and doing like
Yeah.
um, just staying on top of everything, not getting out of shape, and
Yeah.
trying to stay sharp mentally and physically. Um, I definitely feel a lot of pressure right now because
Mhm.
2022 now is around the corner, and if they announce a date for Worlds tomorrow, I want to make sure the team is ready so we can just
Yeah.
start fine tuning instead of getting better, getting better, getting better. It's just being ready, and
Mhm.
then if the competition's tomorrow, let's go.
Right.
So I do feel a lot of that pressure, just making sure that everybody's ready, and we do have a solid 5 members that can go for the team.
Yeah.
Um, and then this what was the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
What is what is your leadership style, right? So how are you leading them
Yes.
sort of in the midst of this and in general, how do you sort of motivate them?
Well, thank goodness for Zoom.
Yes.
I definitely get to see them a lot on Zoom. We
Yeah.
do. I don't know if you know what suburi is. So
Sweet.
suburi is like the suburi.
Yeah.
Suburi is like the swings that we
Yes.
swing the
Yep.
kendo stick,
Yep.
the
Over and
shinai
over.
for.
You have to do like 1,000 of those at like the beginning of practice or something like that?
Right. So that's what we do over Zoom, and
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
and we, outside of kendo, since we can't really practice too much. We're doing like physical activities, like we just tried doing P90X, one of
Oh,
those like
wow. Okay.
workout
Okay.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just put the whole team through P90X
Right.
for the last 3 months, and just trying to make sure we're staying physically active,
Yeah.
staying in shape. As far as my leadership style, I think I think it's very similar to kind of how the tradition has kind of
Mhm.
been passed down through the past Team USAs. There's kind of a certain way to do things in the way that things should be.
Right.
Um, just kind of, I mean, there's a certain order of things, so I just kind of keep that order. I'm very hands off, but
Mm,
I think if, at the same time, to be on Team USA for Kendo is not like being on Team USA for a lot of other things,
right.
because it is definitely something that is done on the side,
Mm,
right? I have to
mm,
work a regular job,
right,
like
right.
I work 7 to 4, then I train after that.
Wow.
Whereas in Kendo, it's something in Japan, Kendo is something you can make a living off of, or
Right,
Korea, same deal, same deal.
right.
Here, it's not like that. So to be a captain of the team where it's everybody's doing something on the side, but trying to make that the priority number one, that's
Mm,
that's the hard part. That's the challenge, I guess,
can't
here.
imagine, yeah.
So so
Mm,
to find a group of people and have a group of people that are making that priority number one, and even work comes second. Like some members from the last team had quit their jobs, moved to Japan for a few months, and
wow.
just trained before World Championships. And for me myself, I used to live in Fresno. I moved here for Kendo, and then found a job working
Right.
for a software company, and and it just for and it's like that for the whole team. So
Mm,
just making sure that everybody remains just follows that order, and stays disciplined enough to make it their priority, and it making sure people are willing to make that sacrifice as
yeah,
well, because we are
yeah,
sacrificing 3 years of our life to just train to for one day,
yeah,
at the
yeah,
world championship. So it's
yeah.
it's just finding the people that are willing to make the sacrifice to do
Mm,
that,
mhm, mhm.
because it's not something that's going to pay out or anything. It's
Right.
just it's
You
a
have to
wild
live it.
dream we have. We just want to win.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think just making sure everybody's on the same page at all times
yeah,
is just the way that I lead the team.
yeah. Yeah, and kudos to you for that. I know that leadership is it's definitely a difficult role to be in a lot of times, and especially during, the pandemic and things like that. I can't imagine that it's easy. And I love
Mhm.
that you all are staying fit in different ways. I think a lot of people might not realize that kendo actually requires a lot of stamina and a lot of cardio, that a lot of people just wouldn't think about normally. But if you ever
Mhm.
see a kendo practice, you will understand why they have to be as fit as they do in order to participate. So glad that you brought that up as well. What has been your toughest match or maybe even experience with kendo, and how did you overcome that?
I wouldn't. I don't really have any really tough matches that I can think back on, and think like, man, like that was tough.
Mm,
I guess there's one. It was my world championships match where I lost
mm,
in top 16. I lost to the world champion, Sho Ando, and
mhm,
I mean, this guy, I had a division that I was going to beat this guy, but in reality, I knew myself I was not there yet,
mhm,
and it's beating the guys from Japan or Korea that are on Team Japan. It's an incredible feat to be able to do, and I think I knew that I wasn't there yet at the time, so I wasn't myself as defeated as somebody who maybe thought they could.
mm,
I had an idea that that this guy was really strong. There was possibility that I could win, but even that wasn't something that was too tough on me. I knew I would come back next time and be stronger. Um, I've more had tough experiences
mm,
through
mhm,
Kendo, and
mhm,
it was more once I've made the team. Um, just like a football team, you see in football movies, they have hell week.
yeah,
Well, I had like hell months,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and when I made the team, I was driving to LA
mm,
from Fresno 3 hours every weekend after class. I got out of school, um, and then I would just drive to LA, go train Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back home on Sundays, go
wow,
back to school on Mondays. Um, and those trainings on the weekends when I first started were they were mentally, emotionally, and physically defeating.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And like I said, it's just something that I'm also doing on the side. So
Right.
if I didn't have everything in my life as far as school or work or whatever else was, if that was not in order, it made the weekend 10 times harder because
Mm,
I'd be playing catch up on both.
right.
So I think doing that and going through that those hell months of training to actually be on the team, um, those were my toughest experiences.
Yeah.
I've Yeah, I've gone through it.
Yeah,
But it
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
it's hard to explain, but it's very easy for me to picture in my head.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
what
yeah.
did
Yeah, no, that's really important, and I think a lot of people don't understand the mental and the physical toll that it can take, right? Off the
Mhm.
bat, they just want to practice it, they think it looks cool and things like that, but to really be dedicated to an art really requires a lot of that, and it's good to remind people of that. So thank you for sharing. On the flip
Sure.
side, what's the you have a positive, like a highlight, you're like, okay, this makes it worth it, that kind of moment, besides being
Um,
captain of the team.
that feeling where I was like, "Yeah, this is worth it.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is something I love doing."
yeah.
So the first time I made the team, I was 21. The World Championships happened in 2015, and then I was 23. So the first time I didn't get to play. I was actually I was like on the bench, like
Mm,
basically. So
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like redshirted. I don't know what you want to call it, but
right.
um, so the players had played, and we lost to Korea in the semifinals,
Mm,
and we took third. And during the whole 2 years, I trained every day, every weekend. Um, and I knew I wasn't gonna play because there were like five people that were better than.
mm,
Um,
mhm,
Even though I had trained with this team during the entire time, at the end of the World Championships, after we had lost and took third, we all went to like the side of the arena or the stadium, and
right.
just kind of gathered as a team, and we just started crying, right? Like
Mhm,
like
mhm.
this is done, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and the captain had told me, it's like, and that team had been retiring, so that was their
Mm,
last chance to try to beat Japan and get first place at the World Championships.
right.
And they were like, "It's on you guys now." And it was three of us that were staying and
Mhm,
playing, going to return for the next Worlds. And he was like, "It's on you guys now." And that moment where it was like, "Wow, like it's over." Like
mhm,
the last 2 years of training every day and sacrificing every weekend, missing birthdays, funerals, weddings, whatever, just to train so we can win,
mm,
was all over.
mm,
And then we had all this free time, and I didn't know what to do with my time. The only thing I could think about was like, like we were so close. Like I can't wait to do that again. And like during the whole first 2 years, it was like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
mhm.
Like there were so many days where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna quit. Like,
Right, right.
and then after the first world, and I got to see that, I didn't really even get to play. I didn't get to play or anything. I just got to experience being
Right.
there. That was enough for me to just want to do this again. And
Mm,
then after I did it the second time, same. It was just so much more motivation to get better. And then now I don't ever have those thoughts of why am I doing this? I don't want to do this anymore.
mm.
Now it's like I want to win so I can retire. Like I don't want to do this
Wow.
anymore,
Yeah,
but I want to win. So I'm gonna
yeah.
work as hard as I can, try as hard as I can, train as hard as I can.
Mm.
That way I can retire and I can be done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that's yeah, the frame of mind has definitely changed.
yeah. I don't know, hearing your story なんかほんとに感動します. Like I really like I'm very like yeah, what am I
ありがとうございます。
like I'm very like touched by hearing your story, just how dedicated you are to it. And I can feel like your passion and like how you're really, dedicated to this. So yeah, thank you again for sharing.
Of course.
Do you have any advice for youth that might be interested in practicing kendo, um, getting involved in it, anything like that?
Um, for youth trying to get in kendo, I think it's something that you'll have, and it'll sit with you for the rest of your life, and it's in a very positive way. Um, Everybody that I've ever got a chance to teach, kendo or practice kendo with, I've I haven't I could say there's a very, very, very small number of people that you like wouldn't want to be around. Like
Mm,
they're all really like, it's such a good thing. Like it's something that teaches you how to be a good person inside kendo and outside kendo in your regular
mhm,
life, and it
mhm,
teaches you a lot of manners and things, and how to be a decent person
mhm.
without really having to teach you, just because it's something that you're going to be surrounded by.
Right.
um the culture of it is absolutely beautiful. And if it's something that you're willing to, like, for a kid that wants to be on Team USA or Team Japan or Team Korea, wherever, wherever they live, if they want to take it to the next level, don't be afraid to take risks
Mhm.
and just do it. Regardless of if it's going to pay out or not. If it's something that you want and you want it bad enough, like, just go get it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's nothing should hold you back. Just just do it.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Shout out Nike. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Just make it work. Make
Yeah.
it work
You
and
get
figure
it.
it out. You could
Yeah.
just do it and then figure it out later.
Yeah.
That's
No, I
not
love
something your parents would tell you, but like if it's something you're passionate about and they're not gonna let you do it, I'd say just do it and figure it out later.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think there's so many youth that would love it, and I want to, expose more youth in Chicago at least to martial arts and things like that. So I definitely think that that's great advice. Um, two more things. So, do you have anything to promote? I don't know if you have any. You want people to join? You want people to do anything like that? It's okay.
Um, I don't really have anything to promote.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a Team USA Instagram page.
All right. All right.
So if you go Team USA Kendo on Instagram,
Yep.
right now we're running we're doing this 30-day post where it's actually, if you wanted to get to know about Team USA Kendo, I mean, we're posting pictures from back in, I think, the 90s,
Wow.
of like
Okay.
the historic Team USA members, and
Right.
what Team USA, where we've gone, and just actually really just starting to build an online presence to show people,
Yeah.
who Team USA was before I was on it, and social media was actually a thing.
Mhm.
So we just want to promote kendo and kendo as a whole, and just have this, expose it more. I want it to be
Yeah.
more exposed, and
Yeah.
one day hopefully get this in schools or something, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
martial arts into schools or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
um that would be amazing. But yeah, I mean, Team USA Kendo Instagram
Right.
page. I think we do have a Facebook page.
Okay.
Support Team USA Kendo.
Woo!
So if you guys can go to that and
And
donate,
you're flying us all out to
that really
Paris.
help.
Yeah, we're all going to Paris for the Worlds, and yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Final question, and I always throw like a little curveball question that doesn't really have to do with anything that we talked about. So,
Hmm.
just gonna throw it out there for you. Um, Ocean or mountains? Which do you prefer?
Ocean.
Good choice. We love that. We love that. I mean, I'm an ocean person. However, there are some people who really
Hmm.
love nature and climbing and mountains and things like that. And I don't mind it. But
Yeah,
let's be real, water is a little more healing. No, I'm just kidding.
I like
Yeah.
water, and it's funny because in Fresno, I was actually really close to Yosemite.
Yep. Yep.
It's like right in my backyard, so I used to go there every summer. And now that I'm in LA and I'm close to the ocean, I don't think I could see
Understand.
myself going back to.
You understand. You understand. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love LA. I love the ocean. Thank you so much, Julian.
of
Really,
course.
really
Thanks for having me.
appreciate it. Yes. And we'll look forward to seeing more from you.